At today's opening of this specially designed AIDS ward, the Princess will meet patients and staff. The visit has been highly anticipated all over the world. The specially designed Broderick ward at the Middlesex Hospital is the only one of its kind in Britain dedicated to the treatment of AIDS patients.
I pick up the paper and there's this headline on the front page about Princess Di going to shake hands with 12 AIDS victims. It says here, she will not be wearing any protective clothing for her visit.
I've done the head count. We're all still here. That's what I'll hold on to get me through till breakfast. And today is the day.
Dedicated to the treatment of AIDS patients. Today's visit by the Princess of Wales is said to be worth all of the negative media propaganda put together. At today's opening of this special...
I said to Jude, my nurse, last week, "You're off for a couple of days, aren't you?" I said to her, "If I die before you come back, you will come to my funeral, won't you?"
Oh, come on, boss. It's not here soon, I'll have to get a cab. I sometimes flirt with the idea of seeking out alternative means of employment. I must have other options. Clerk, PA, chef.
After nearly 25 years, I'm used to working nights. There's a camaraderie down at the fire station like you wouldn't believe. You'd not get an atmosphere like that anywhere else. Well, except perhaps the army.
Beautician. My best friend from school, Amanda, she's got the most glamorous job going. Works in advertising, promoting skin products for L'Oreal. She's always in Paris. The last time I saw her, she wore this tailored suit with shoulder pads so wide. She looked like an American quarterback. If only I'd stuck with my French O-level and not had acne. Yesterday, after this shift from hell, I had this fantasy about being a flight attendant for British Airways. Just think, instead of bedpans and vomit, I could be serving champagne mid transatlantic. I've always dreamed of being on Concorde.
I've done the head count. We're all still here. That's what I'll hold on to get me through till breakfast. And today is the day. And I know we've all been told it's a big deal, a groundbreaker and all that, which I understand, I do. But I'm still worried I'll end up being in the papers.
Catch the eye of the woman in front of me. She looks too old to be out this early. And I communicate with her telepathically to say, we could do with Concorde right now, couldn't we? But she's in a trance state. And she stares through me like I've lost the plot. Sometimes I think I have. There's a lot of pressure in my line of work. Quite a lot to hold on to, a shed load of head stuff for a 24-year-old, and if I thought about it too much, I'd go mad. Oh, here comes a 38. God. What? No! They're not in service, rushes right past me and sprays water from the road all over my new Dorothy Perkins boots. The soakers aim with deliberate precision. Fat bastard driver! I shout with all the faults my silk-cut lungs can muster. But the thing is, I love what I do. Ever since I was 9 years old and I fixed my Cindy doll's broken arm with an elastoplast, I knew I wanted to be a nurse. Here at last.
They're family, me and the lads. We look out for each other. We've got a small gym out the back now. I spot for my mate Trev, he spots for me. He gets a lot of attention from the women, that bloke, because of his physique and being black and that. We both support the O's. Come on, the Orient. Oh, we talk a lot about football. We're pushing weights the other day. and chatting about some game that we've both seen. I'm not paying proper attention. I dropped one of the dumbbells on my big toe, didn't I? Fuck, it hurt. I couldn't drive. Trev, good on him, took me home in the fire engine, didn't he?
The bus is already half full and steamed up when I get on. That boy 2 rows back looks just like Nick Cayman. I swear he does. Wonder if he'll be up for a shag. No, Jude! No!
They call me the old man because I've been here the longest. But when the time comes, I'll be well sorted financially because the service, it's got a good pension scheme. But you know, I don't want to think about not doing what I do because I know I'll go mad sitting at home, twiddling me thumbs, driving the missus to the garden centres and the like.
I make my way to the top deck and, ooh, lucky day, get a front seat all to myself. I wipe a portal through the window fog, then head for Mel and Kim Oblivion on my new Sony Walkman. Andrew, one of our patients, told me which one to buy. WM36. Our patients know all the best new gadgets. Miles better than the crappy cheap cassette player I had before. This one's got a soundboard graphic, so you can give it loads of bass or treble. And I've got my Wham, and my Madonna, and my anything upbeat to keep me afloat when I need propping up. I'm Andrew's lead nurse. He's such a lovely guy. It's such a shame.
Work, they think I'm here with a chest infection. And there's my family, for Christ's sake, they don't even know I'm gay. It's going to kill my mother when she finds out, and of course that's going to happen at some point. Just, I can't cope with that on top of everything else. And I'm getting jittery already, and the room's spinning, yeah, a bit like I've had one too many, and Nurse? Please, nurse? Please, someone!
I know Mum would be proud of me for what I'm doing. I'm not squeamish and I don't get easily embarrassed by body things anymore. To think how naive I used to be. I mean, when I was 15, I still thought a blowjob was something I'd done at the hairdressers. I told Ed, one of the other nurses, that the other day, and he said, "Well, Jude, you've been to the moon and back since then, haven't you, darling?" We were in the sluice room at the time, and Ed was a bit upset because he'd just seen a patient gag when they gave him a gastroscopy, and I came out with that blowjob line just to take the edge off things, you know, cheer us both up before we had to go out and be their angels again. But I'm not an angel. I'm just an ordinary human being. If I were an angel, a real one, I'd put a stop to all of this, wouldn't I?
Always lived in Chingford. Ever since we got married, in the same council house, which thanks to Maggie, we can now buy at a big discount on a small mortgage. I've got my reservations about that woman. I mean, what she did to the miners was unforgivable. But she's helped us buy our own home, and that's a good thing because it's something that you can pass on. London's getting so expensive and everything. Anyway, Cheryl and me were childhood sweethearts, you could say. Married at 17, first kid came 2 years later. I don't want to talk about him. He went off the rails a long time ago. But our 2 girls are good uns though. Our Debbie, she works in ladies' jewellery at John Lewis up the West End. And Susan, well, we call her Suze, the older one, she works for a housing association in admin. She's engaged to an electrician. They're planning on getting married next year. My wife and girls, they're mad about the royals, It drives me up the wall. I mean, all that gossip about Princess Margaret, whether Fergie could possibly make herself look worse by what she's wearing, and Charles and Di. Charles and bloody Di, oh God.
After a few stops, this huge lady plonks herself down right next to me, all wet and dripping, not so much as an excuse me or nothing. The bus has hardly pulled away before she is snoring her head off, and I have to adjust the volume on Mel and Kim. But then, as we ride along, her body falls against mine. She smells of warm milk, and that reminds me of Mum's cuddles. I bask in that all the way to Tottenham Court Road.
Our commander says we're getting a female firefighter soon. Now, I know I shouldn't say this, but how's that going to work? Even if she's one of those dyke lesbians, she won't have the physical strength. And what about the showers? Nah. When I first started, I used to think if we get one more call out for a cat up a tree, I'll go out and top myself. But it's changed a lot, though, the job. It has. It's not what people think. Once, right, I attended a big blaze at a brothel. I'm giving this prostitute a fireman's lift to get her out quick, and all her gold mine is right in my face. All suspenders and rubber knickers. That went down well at the station.
I got into a right panic when they told us Diana was coming. All of us were scared. You know that confidentiality would be breached. About a third of the ward have asked to be temporarily moved, so there's no chance at all they'll be seen by the media. I've agreed to stay, but only on condition I'm not photographed. I used to push myself to the front of the queue when anyone took out a camera.
The station in Leighton to Chingford takes no time at all, because at this time of day it's all against the traffic. Last night was a bit of a doddle. We did a bit of training with the new kit and settled into cards and dominoes. We haven't had a big call out in a long time. But no, last week we did attend a bedsit fire, which turned out to be an old derelict house where a party had got a bit out of control and they'd set fire to an old sofa out the back. But some of the lads, they didn't want to go in there to check it out because of all the needles and stuff lying around. They said they wish it had been a big blaze rather than having to risk catching whatever off a load of junkies. And I mean, you can understand that, can't you?
I've come to think that a warm touch from another person is what it's all about, really. Nothing else. When I was doing my general nursing, I had a stint in geriatrics, and the old people who came in were often very alone in the world. And some of them, they used to say when I sponged them down, "Oh nurse, that's the first time anyone else has touched me in years." Even the Gaga ones, you could tell, you could see it in their eyes. That's why when the memo came round about staff being needed for the new AIDS unit, I put my name down straight away. My friend Ed did too. Because nobody wants to touch those poor people. Everyone wants to put on a spacesuit or run a mile, and they're human too. Even though the tombstone ads on the TV and the stories in the papers and Hail Mary, up her own arse, Mrs. Whitehouse, talk about them as if they're aliens. It's wrong. And what must it be like to have people afraid to come near you because of who you are?
I haven't outright told anyone I know about my current condition. Few will have guessed, but I don't want people coming up here to see me in this state. The ward have been good with fending off, although Jude says I ought to rethink having visitors. What she means is before it's too late. The thing is, out there, in the big wide world, no one will look you in the eye when the AIDS word is mentioned. Especially other gay men, they're all too petrified it'll happen to them.
A lot of them coming through from the HIV clinic now are my age. Everything else just pales into insignificance, doesn't it? Which is why, when the electric bill arrives on the day I'm down to my last tin of baked beans, and it's a whole week till payday, and my flatmates shout at me, "It's Friday, you're coming down the pub with us," I don't hesitate. Because you can't tell what might be coming your way tomorrow. No one can.
The first other person with this I talked to was a guy I sat next to in the clinic. I said, "How are you?" And he said, all right, you know, not too bad. He'd just got back from visiting family in Kent. He said they all knew about his diagnosis and had received counselling, but things were still awkward with his stepmother. He said at dinner the night before, hardly a word was spoken, and he suddenly noticed the stepmother had painted small drops of red nail varnish on all his cutlery.
I pick up the paper and there's this headline on the front page about Princess Di is going to shake hands with 12 AIDS victims. It says here, she will not be wearing any protective clothing for her visit. That can't be right. They must make her take precautions. Gloves at least. Just at that minute, the wife comes through from the kitchen and says, "Oh, I just heard on the radio. Princess Diana is going to visit an AIDS ward today and she's going to shake hands with all the patients." And she's looking at me as if there's something else on her mind. And that something else is preying on her. And she's about to say something more about it, but her open mouth just hangs in the air. And she pants and sighs and starts fussing with the sleeves on her dress. We both know what that something else is, but neither of us have the strength to give it breath. I look back to the wife and I say, "Oh, yeah, no, I just read that in the paper." And I put my head down. And all she can say is, "Do I want another cup of tea because the kettle's on the boil?"
I enter the hospital through the quiet swish of automatic doors, and my mind begins to gear up to get in role. But I'm not thinking about what will make today different from the rest. Instead, I go to their faces, see them all lined up in front of me. I can't help from wondering which of them has left us in the night. Please let Andrew be okay.
I'm the only child from an army family brought up in Germany and then at boarding school near Bristol. I've never been close to my parents. I see them at Christmas and we do birthday cards. My mother phones once in a blue moon. Though now I wish I had been close to them. Because doing this solo isn't easy, let me tell you.
There's a strong smell of paint everywhere. Security are more visible than usual, scurrying about. You can tell royalty's on the way. I rush through the main hall, past the little shop run by Norman, give him a wave, up the stone stairs to the west wing. I go through the ward's distinctive white doors with their green trim, straight to the nurse's office where they're all assembling. "Not that we're waiting," Sister says in that posh voice of hers and looking at me. I get a grin off Ed, who shoves a coffee at me and we start the handover. And Alison, who does nights, is talking, and I'm tuning in, but at the same time I let my eyes drift to the board. See, all of them are still here. I'm hit by a memory of Tim, a beautiful lad, younger than me spoon feeding him mince and mashed potato from the edge of his bed. We lost him recently. I found out from that board. Sister told me to go into the sluice room and have a good cry, and to make up the time later. The unit's only been open a couple of months, and in 1 week we had 7 out of our 12 patients die. Spent a lot of time in that sluice room. We're all well rehearsed. Sister's been leading a ward group to discuss all the issues and practicalities with the patients. Some of them don't want to be part of it because of the disclosure issues. Only one patient, I'll call him patient Z, has agreed to be part of it and to be photographed with a princess. And only on condition it's an angled shot so you can't see his face. I'm glad he's going to do it, honestly. I thought we were onto a lost cause. Not long after I started working here, we had gutter press journalists hoisting themselves up on a platform outside, pretending to be window cleaners, but taking pictures of us all. And not all the nurses are here today either. Some of them don't want to be on TV because it'll expose them as working with AIDS patients, and they might be labelled or face being shut out. And the thought has crossed my mind I might be asked to leave my flat. How well do I really know who I'm sharing with? Oh, but my own worries, pale to nothing by comparison to Ed's. He's the really brave one, no question.
It says in the paper, Buckingham Palace has expressed a desire that the princess should meet someone of her own sex. Are there women with it now as well? Yesterday, I heard on the news that Ken Baker, the Education Secretary, said that teachers infected with AIDS are not a health threat and shouldn't be sacked. What is he talking about?
The doctors have told us we are going to die. If not in as many words. And there was this guy in the bed next to mine. He didn't last very long. He was only here 3 days and he never got out of bed. I overheard him ask the doctor, "Am I going to die?" No one can say. Is it likely? You know the results. And then this poor guy started croaking out a song from Oliver. I said to Jude, my nurse, last week, "You're off for a couple of days, aren't you?" I said to her, "If I die before you come back, you will come to my funeral, won't you?" I used to be interested in clothes, clubs, buying records, and men. Now my life? What life? It's all clinics and crematoriums.
We finished moving the last of our patients, the ones who don't want to be here for when she comes. The unit feels eerily empty and unlived in. It's like a show house. We've even had a new toilet built especially for her, and a policewoman's been in and checked it this morning and then locked it again just to make sure that no one else christens it. Everything's in place. We all know exactly where we need to be when she comes in through those doors, which we're all staring at now. The camera crew from Thames Television and the official photographer are setting up. Sister's doing a last-minute check on positions just to reassure that no one who hasn't given their permission will be seen on camera.
I've been cleaned up. Jude's been over for a quick natter. They've done the breakfast, and I managed to eat a bit of toast and a bowl of Rice Krispies. More waiting now. Waiting for HRH. She ought to pay us a visit in the night. That's when she get the real picture. When people open up in the early hours and it all gets too much.
Well, Ed's volunteered to be one of the nurses to go down and meet and greet the princess with the hospital bigwigs. I'm so glad I'm not doing that. I'm like an actor with stage fright. What am I actually going to say to her if she stops in front of me and asks me what we do here? I could tell her how we put in a Hickman line. Or we do that so we can take the patients outside to sit in the sun without compromising any treatment they're on. My brain always jumps to the textbook definition I learned off pat for my exams. Hickman line. A long, flexible plastic tube inserted underneath the chest wall skin, draining into the large vein into the heart, used to administer medication or chemotherapy, often used when peripheral veins have collapsed. So I tell her we have no effective treatment. That there's nothing on the horizon, and it's like trying to fight a battle with sodding poo sticks.
What the hell am I going to say to her? She's a natty dresser. I could make a comment about what she's wearing. I've made a supreme effort myself, with Jude's help. Sister said, just tell the princess whatever she wants to know. I only got diagnosed last September, and how quickly things have plummeted. I was feeling under par for months before that, though. And I got herpes. I got herpes really bad. Can I talk to a member of the royal family about herpes?
I could tell her how we do all we can to grant dying patients their final wishes. Like, there was this one guy who'd always dreamed of riding on the back of a Harley Davidson. So we fixed up his Hickman line, wrapped him in a blanket, and then one of the junior doctors took him for a spin around Bloomsbury at 2 o'clock in the morning. Oh, but I can't tell her that, can I? Might be recorded then, we'd all be for it. So, we're all gathering to one side of this red curtain that's hiding a plaque Diana's going to unveil. Anyone who's anyone is here. Medical director, director of nursing, lady mayoress of Westminster Council, then all of us in the clinical team. I hear one of the doctors saying we must have a mole because it's all over the papers this morning. Everything was meant to be carefully drip fed. He says there were direct quotes from the meeting we had yesterday. My heart thumps out a mini explosion. No one outside knows that I work here and how it's in the papers. Tonight it'll be on the telly.
I don't like taking drugs. Even taking 2 paracetamols used to freak me out. I don't know why. So when they offered me sleeping pills, I said no. I have to get up for the toilet anyway, and what's the point in sleeping through the shit, then waking up to that mess? But something happened one night that made me think seriously about asking them to knock me out. There was this patient. We didn't see him much. He was in a side room. Jude told me he had dementia, so they could only manage him in a side room right near to the nurses' station where they could keep a close eye. The night I'm talking about, I couldn't get off to sleep. All these things running across my mind like spiders on a alarm sensor. It was about 1 a.m. and this guy, an American who worked in London theatre, someone quite famous, he comes out of his room wearing this blue chiffon dress. I'm not lying. Blue chiffon dress. It must have fitted him perfectly once, but now hung from his skeletal body like a loose sail. I thought I was seeing a ghost until the night staff collared him. One of the nurses took his hand, and you won't believe this, but he started to dance or waltz with her. And he had a coughing fit. There was real drama as he coughed up his own lungs. And the blue dress covered in red flecks. This guy, who was about 40 years old, started wailing. Like really crying like he'd just been beaten up. And the staff, they just couldn't do anything to console him. In the morning, I saw the people from the morgue come to take him away.
A long time ago, I had a friend. Well, no, he was more than a friend. He was my best friend. I was still at school. It was 1955. Graham had just turned 14 and I was about to. Graham and me went everywhere together. Chelsea had just made it to the First Division, and that film, The Dam Busters, had just come out. We went to see it in Walthamstow at the Granada Theatre. One day, well, it was July the 9th, a Saturday morning, and I'm shoving jam sandwiches and a flask into my duffel bag, about to head off for football practice. And there were grown-ups talking in the front room, and I thought, well, something must be wrong, because no one's ever allowed in the front room unless it's Christmas or a special do. Dad must have caught sight of me through a crack in the door, and he shouted for me to wait. My dad, he never did have much colour, and what little colour he did have had drained from his face, which had turned 2 shades short of tapioca. He took me by the arm and he sat me down at the bottom of the stairs, and he looked at me solemnly and he said, "There's been an accident. Graham's been killed." I thought of him and me watching the Dam Busters, pinching our noses and doing the voices of the aircrew at 13,000 feet. I couldn't take it in. I didn't want to. So I ran off. I ran to Hackney Marshes, didn't I? I kept walking all day, not knowing where I'd end up, and by the time it was dark, I was in Limehouse. I had to take 2 buses to get home. My mum, when she saw me, she burst into tears, and my daddy gave me a right wallop, he did. And then he squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. It was a few weeks before they had the funeral, which I thought was a bit funny. I saw Graham in his coffin, but it wasn't him lying there. I already knew he'd gone somewhere else. Nobody wanted to talk about it, and I never really found out how my friend's life ended. It made me sort of close in on myself. I became a bit of a loner. There was this rumour going around about how Graham had deliberately stepped out in front of a lorry. I tried to bury it, I suppose, by getting into trouble. Nothing too bad, kids stuff, you know, vandalism mostly. The whole thing made me feel very unsettled and insecure, which is why I think I stayed local and married young. Looking back now, I think my wife saved me a little bit. I fell in love with Shirley within 5 minutes of meeting her. When my wife and me had our first baby, we were beside ourselves with happiness. Our first child, a boy, my boy. We named him after my wife's father and Graham, after my friend that died. He was such a beautiful baby. A beautiful little fella. My mummy's nan used to say, "Oh, he's got a good soul, that one." Everything was perfect with me and my boy. Until he reached about 15. He changed. He changed towards us. He changed towards everyone. Life started to get very difficult with my boy.
Right, Andrew. Yeah. Do take a seat. We've run a number of tests on you, and what we're finding is that...
I can still hear the doctor's voice in my head.
these tests are...
Can you confirm your name? Date of birth? Address? You are aware that when we took your blood last time, we tested it for the HIV virus. Andrew, I'm very sorry to have to tell you that you tested positive for the AIDS virus. Andrew, your other blood results show that your immune system is very severely compromised. Andrew, I'm very sorry, but you have AIDS. Andrew, I'm sorry? He proceeded to give me a full examination and said I would need to have my eyes checked and another blood test for something called CMV, which if I did have meant I could go blind. Blind. I didn't break down. A lot do. They just go to pieces on the spot, but I didn't. My mind began a hunt for who might have infected me. Was it that guy I met last Easter, the one from Colorado who said he made film sets for Hollywood? Or did I catch it from some anonymous sauna encounter? I've used condoms for ages, I've not done anything risky. I've not done much of anything for quite a while, too frightened of anything more than a mutual wanking off. But the doctor said I'd probably been infected up to 5 years ago. 1982. The time I was exploring. None of us had even heard of AIDS back then.
The other night, we should have gone off shift at 9, but we were busy and I couldn't just walk away and leave the night staff to deal with it. My friend lent me a £5 to get a cab home. By the time we'd done, all I wanted to do was just crawl into bed. I knew I'd be back here in 8 hours anyway. So I get this cab to pick me up from outside A&E, and this driver, he says to me, "Oh, just finished, have you, love?" Yeah, just finished. I tell him, I just want to be home and in my bed. "Do you reckon casualty then?" I thought, do you know what, I'm not having this conversation. So I say, "Yeah, I do." And he says, "Oh, just as well. Thought you were going to say that fucking AIDS malarkey." I thought, shit. And he's telling me this story about how his son was a haemophiliac who got HIV infected through factor VIII, and he was now desperately ill in the Royal Free. He was still alive, and it was a really sad story, but I'm sitting in the back of his cab thinking, fuck, thank God I didn't say anything. He might throw me out on Euston Road there and then. But then he finished up by saying it wasn't fair how all those queers were getting all the attention, and for them it was self-inflicted. At the bus stop once, I heard someone say, "Oh, I do hope they find a cure, just not too soon." No one knows I'm working here. Not even my flatmates. They all think I'm in A&E. So, it's D-Day now.
I stare out across the ward and my eyes shift to in front of the day area where the main team will meet Diana. The cameramen are going over, positioning with the patient who's agreed to have his picture taken, shaking hands with her. Right now, he's got my full respect and admiration. There's a commotion outside, and it's getting louder. The press pack in and there's loads of flashing light. A real frenzy is going on.
I'm usually out like a light as soon as my head hits a pillar. We got these special blackout curtains in our bedroom, see, that when they're pulled close, you wouldn't know whether it's the middle of the morning or midnight. But for some reason, today, I can't settle. Even several attempts to dull myself with a copy of the Wife's Hello magazine proved useless, and I've ended up lying on the bed with my eyes half open for most of the last 6 hours. I'm ready to take on all comers. World, you had better look out.
The princess looks incredible. She's taller than I expected. She's wearing this fabulous blue long sleeve dress with a very expensive looking black clutch bag under one arm. The Lady Mayoress, all in green, with a big floppy hat, is poised and ready to clap at the unveiling. Diana pulls the string in one go and there's the plaque. And now my palms are sweating because next she'll be coming down the line, she'll be inches from her face. God.
She's sleek, wearing a lovely blue gown. She has a beautiful shape, lovely long legs. Elegant.
The medical director shakes Diana's hand and they move to one of the consultants, and the medical director points to a chest x-ray and says, "This is a chest x-ray." And Diana says, "Of course, I know what a chest x-ray looks like. What does it represent in terms of the patient's condition?" And I thought, good on you, Diana. You're not the blonde airhead they make you out to be. And this makes me smile. And I'm still smiling when she gets to me and it's my turn. And at once she takes hold of my hand. It's as if to say, thank you for what you're doing. And I'm not feeling all wired up anymore. And I do tell her about the Hickman line. And she listens attentively until I'm done, nodding, and looks straight at me and says, "That's so amazing, Judith."
She comes up to me and says, "Oh, hi, I'm Diana." And she strikes me as so natural. It's not what I expected. She is so natural and relaxed. She radiates this wonderful naturalness that puts me completely at ease.
I look down the line as she approaches Ed, who's right at the end. I wonder what he's thinking. I see him shuffle back and forth, wring his hands, then put them behind his back. Now the cameras are on Ed and the princess. And she's with him longer than any of the rest of us. And she's asking him how he is, and he's telling her one thing, and another, and more, until everything is out in the open, and Diana, Princess of Wales, seems humbled by what he's just told her. She shakes his hand. She gives him a hug. Oh, and the cameras are loving this, and they're going mad, firing off one shot after another, after another, after another.
She puts her hand on my knee. She's gentle. I just say, I'm very poorly at the moment. And straight away, I can tell by her eyes, she is totally in empathy. She can see what it means for someone to have this awful virus.
I can't believe it's over. We're all incredibly relieved it went so smoothly. Sister said, "Much better than expected." Yeah, it's a coup. We're all on such a high. Diana's been whisked off to the boardroom for light refreshments, and we're all buzzing in the afterglow of her visit. I go and I hug Andrew, and I bring him back to the day area where all us ward staff are celebrating with a cuppa. Andrew tells patient Zed he's done something incredible today. And for half an hour it's like a leaving do get together, joyful but with a few wet eyes. Ed's just come back in. The TV crew have just finished doing a separate interview with him, and we cheer, and I go and I give him the biggest, most tremendous hug I can summon. And then it's back to normal routine. We bring back all the other patients, hold a ward meeting, do all the lunches. We've even got a new admission later on this afternoon, and Ed's the assigned nurse. We've all decided to stay on to watch the 6 o'clock news, staff and patients all together.
When I walk into the living room, I catch the wife putting something back on the mantelpiece. And I say, "You all right, love?" And she says, "Not really." And she says it again. "What was that you were looking at?" I ask. And as the words come out of my mouth, I can already see the old school photo of our boy that she's fretting over. He was 13 in that photo. Look at his long hair, the spots, his buck teeth, she answers, staring out the window. "What are we having for our tea?" I say.
Diana kept eye contact the whole time I was talking with her. She asked me if there was anything she could do, if there was anything I needed. and she told me that she'd come back again soon, but without all the cameras. My new friend by royal appointment. Whoever would have believed it? Diana on one arm, Jude on the other. My angel wings.
We're waiting in the day area for the news to come on. Everyone's here. Even our domestic, a lovely Filipino lady called Edna, she's got this melting butter voice, and we're all passing around a big box of Cadbury's roses she's brought in. Oh, I wish Tim was still with us. He'd have loved today to meet the princess. What happened to him in his final days will stay with me for the rest of my life. He was thrown out of his home by his parents when he was a teenager for being gay. He spent years as a rent boy. His family never contacted him. Never. Even though he tried to get in touch many times. When he came onto the unit, he was assigned to me, and one of the first things he told me was how being cut off from his family was a constant source of regret. Andrew's got that same engaging smile Tim had. Lifts you 1,000 feet high. And like Tim, Andrew's got this mop of gorgeous, shiny brown hair. Anyway, one day, it was a Tuesday, we were just clearing away the lunches, and this hard, harsh woman turns up unannounced, demanding to see her son. Tim was in one of the side rooms. He agreed to see her. I thought it best to leave him alone for some time. So I left him alone. And when I came back, Sorry. And it's a bit difficult. When I came back, I found Tim's mother lying in bed with him. She was holding his hand. And this transformed the way Tim was able to face his own death. It made his last days so much easier.
My wife, she turns to me and throws a look like daggers and shouts, "When was the last time you saw him? Our son, Ed? When was the last time you spoke to him even?" Now, I look out the window and I tell her, I don't want to talk about that. I've got to be down the station in an hour and I want the tea, but she won't let it go. We've been here before. "I'm sick of it!" she screams. "I'm sick of having to forge your signature on his birthday and Christmas cards. I'm sick of having to make excuses to other people about where he is and why we never see him. I'm tired, Donnie. Donnie, I'm tired of behaving like he's not ours, not loved, not normal." She says, "Donnie, he is our son. He does not deserve this from us just because he is..." And then I start shouting back, "Look what he does for a living. What sort of job is that for a real man? A nurse? In Jerry Bloody Hendricks?" We've hit a brick wall again. The wife, she says you can make your own tea and storms off upstairs to do God knows what. I know how Debbie sees him now and then. Not our other daughter. The wife, she sees Ed behind my back. I know she does. She's not fooling anyone when she says, "Oh, I'm just off to the bingo once a month on a Saturday afternoon." And she's never shown an interest in it before the big bust-up with Ed. Announcing on his 21st birthday that he likes men. Never getting married or having children, so better we get used to it. Our son says he's gay. A queer boy.
Ed has never worn his own HIV infection as a badge. Of course, I was shocked. I was really shocked when he told me. We were working together in geriatrics, that's where we met. We were just having a sandwich on our lunch break. That AIDS public health advert had just hit our TV screens and everyone was talking about it. And he asked me what I thought, professionally, as a nurse. I told him I knew virtually nothing about it, except that Rock Hudson died from it 18 months ago and wasn't it an American thing? Put me right on all counts. He said he was doing well. He was tough. I could ask him anything. He'd always been open about being gay. We'd started to hang out beyond the pizza and a drink after work anyway, and he'd take me out on the scene. We'd go dancing in clubs like Heaven and down to the White Swan in Limehouse. His revelation brought us even closer.
I'm in the kitchen searching the cupboards for anything quick and easy that will set me up for the evening. I'm no cook, me, so there's nothing for it. It's going to have to be a tin of spaghetti and cheese on toast. I make myself a large mug of tea and I take it all back into the living room on a tray and I sit in front of the telly. I like to watch the news before I go in, and it's nearly time.
And all 10 of the patients in this specialist AIDS ward. All of the speculation
What I'd like to
had
say
been
about
about
Ed
whether or not the
is that
princess
above all
was
else,
alive.
he is a hard-working professional nurse who is liked by everyone and supportive of other nurses. Some of the other staff know about his status, and socially some friends do too, but many until today won't have known. He's been open about himself with some of the patients when he can use his own experience to benefit them. What he's done today is super fucking amazing. A real moment of grace.
Princess Diana will publicly challenge the notion that HIV is passed from person to person.
I hear the wife clomping down the stairs. Now, I'm not having another row. She walks into the room and sits down without saying a word. I'm thinking, wait for it. You're like a greyhound in the traps, you old girl. But she gets up again, goes up to the telly and turns up the volume. Instead of sitting back down in her chair, she comes and sits next to me on the sofa, careful not to touch me, mind, as if she's on some sort of silent protest or something. And so I put down the piece of cheese on toast that I'm holding, I put my arm around her shoulder and I say, come on, girl, come on. I'll give her a peck on the cheek in the hope that she'll settle and leave me to watch the news like I always do. Because the 6 o'clock news is like a briefing, it is. It's what starts off the conversation when you get down the station, when you're putting your stuff into the lockers. A sort of ritual, you could call it. But as I'm sitting here, in front of the telly, next to the wife, all I'm feeling is uneasy.
Have you ever been in a room with other people when everyone holds their breath at the same time? It's like the seconds have temporarily stopped ticking, and we're all floating, holding hands, no one daring to take the next first gulp of air. I flicked to sister. She's fidgeting at the back of her head with a starched white bonnet. My hand touches Ed's hand, and he squeezes it so hard it hurts.
When that young newsreader, Paul Green, pops onto the screen, the wife, she perks up all of a sudden and takes my arm off her. I'm about to make good use of this opportunity to return to my cheese on toast when he says, this was the scene that greeted the Princess of Wales today when she spent over an hour touching and talking to AIDS patients behind closed doors. Oh, God. Diana again. The wife, she says, oh, look at her lovely blue dress. Oh, she is so brave, she is.
The specially designed Broderick
Everyone's
ward,
eyes
the
are fixed
Middlesex
on the
Hospital,
TV
is the
screen.
only one of its kind in Britain.
There she is, the princess!
Today's visit by the
There's
Princess
sister.
of Wales is said to be worth all
That's Alison!
the media propaganda put together.
Consultant,
Today's opening of the specially designed
junior
aid ward,
doctor,
the princess will meet patients
Me?
This visit is highly anticipated
Me!
all over the world.
Then as the camera pans down the line of ward staff, it's...
There's Ed! The wife yells. What?
Ed! There he is!
He's got curly hair. It was short before.
Oh, look at that dress.
My new friend by royal appointment.
The pulse in his hand is throbbing so rapidly, I automatically reach for my nurse's watch until I realise.
The camera's stopped on my son. Why is it doing that?
They've cut in Ed's interview. My ears and eyes are on stalks as he begins to speak.
She said it must be really difficult. I said the hardest part about it was the way in which the media portrayed HIV and AIDS. I'm trying to get across the message that someone with HIV is infectious, but not contagious. I think that the princess helped get that message across by the mere fact that she wasn't wearing gloves, and the mere fact that she shook hands with the patients and myself.
The only one of its kind in Britain dedicated to the treatment of AIDS patients. According to the hospital, today's visit by the Princess of Wales was said to equal all the government's own propaganda. And today's opening of this specially designed AIDS...
The world is seeing this.
The visit has been highly anticipated.
My son,
Princess Diana was
working on an AIDS ward, saying how he met the Princess of Wales, saying he says he's got the nurse, our son Ed, my boy.
She shook hands with doctors, nurses, and all 10 of the patients in this specialist.
Show.
Princess Diana will publicly challenge the notion that HIV is passed from person to person by touch, by shaking hands with infected patients. This simple gesture is hoped to prove that AIDS is not to be feared, and instead is a condition needing compassion and understanding, not loathing and ignorance. It may not remove the stigma completely, but it was a much anticipated seminal moment. She shook hands with doctors, nurses, and all 10 of the patients on this specialist AIDS ward. All of the speculation had been about whether or not the princess would wear gloves. To the delight of the staff, she wasn't wearing any protective clothing, and according to press reports, the princess felt no apprehension